Welcome back. I wanted to go over a few more things about multi-WAN, multi-ISP, no lag. The first thing I wanted to get into is I missed the little pieces of the glue to the entire story. Well, first of all, we had this black line before, and this black line represented source, master source that contains all of our minds and everything that we will perceive, and all of the data that exists to allow us to perceive. This is a very complicated part because we actually kind of write this in terms of encryption format. What I meant down here was consent to enforce constructual engrossment to the infinity that we contain, that is within this science pre-computed bubble of request to main source. So what I'm talking about is this is our one language to source, and this is our consent to not know the just one bit of data different will allow us to combat hacking on a whole nother level. Because if one bit is different, then the entire gear-in process of a hacker does not hack anymore. Imagine this, you type the password in 1 digit wrong. That's the entire thing. Consent to engross with infinite strength basically is putting consent into a magic code tray out request, one language out, just putting it out there, as simple as in BB code, in English even, in any language, in multiple languages. I would presume this to be written in, so it is understood that the rest of the gear formula that I'm gonna write down here gets portrayed. Now what I wanna get into is mostly PvP consensual combat. So you're going to have player, and I'll mark that with player. Now this can be player X, meaning variable amount of players. Then you are going to have source, meaning this is the source developer of the game itself. And then you have player Y, and that can be a variable amount of players for team sports, team combat, team esports. And inside of this sector here, this is what I'm going to call ISP, multi-ISP, and multi-VPN. Encryption, meaning if we get multi-ISP, multi-VPN botnets established as a standardized industry, this entire field here will be all over the encryption in the entire source. Meaning if a packet gets created back here behind player one, small packet, this packet has to go over through this encryption, all of the encryption, in order to maintain the source's capturing of P intact without it coming out as T, like seen in my last video. T is a hacked packet, because what we want is we want no lag. We want P to be P at all times in every single spot. And now what needs to also happen is we are photon absorption machines. We are cameras. Right now you're watching 2D photons, not because you're watching a screen, because you're looking at light. Light frozen is two-dimensional. It is only with time and with selecting multiple photons of light in which you are selecting 3 dimensions of light, or 3-dimensional perception. So we need to start writing in these protocols so then our packets do not transform into T, meaning we need multi-ISP, multi-VPN with consent to enforce our infinitely growing encryption filtration, meaning this P is out here in magic as well. This source is out here in magic as well. These sources, this is virtual source, this is virtual packet. These are exactly the same thing, but they are just being mirrored in from source. This is our perceivable source, and everything else is real source, the infinity, the extrapolation machine, the everything, the pre-computed algorithm, the constantly creating new things, extrapolator, constantly adopting to new sources, constantly partnering with new sources, open source for open source kind of algorithm here. That is everything outside the lines. Inside the lines is what we want to be our everyday life in competitive gaming. Multi-ISP, multi-VPN, one language to source that hosts our mind will bring us to this phase of having P intact in every moment of time with no lag. Meaning, to my mind and your mind, there is no difference on the time in which the photon is perceived by your photon absorption machine, your brain. There's no lag. There's no lag on source. There's no lag on player 1. There's no lag on player Y, player X and Y, players X and Y, the teams, the players, the theoretical players themselves. This is very important to be writing in these languages and to be thinking about these things, because if we're not thinking about these things, we open ourselves up to be in a magical realm of code. And we do not need to be in the magical realm of code. We can put virtual packets of information in the magical realm of code to allow them to exist there as well. The magical realm is just, like I said in my last video, the infinity. This is the scientific realm. The scientific realm is here so then we can define finite, so we can have developer consent, because we're in a phase in gaming in our industry today that people can cheat in tournaments even, if not more than that. Not to mention bio-augmented reality. If a competitive player nowadays has bio-augmented reality installed and their whole team has bio-augmented reality cheat codes installed, feeling inceptions and assistance protocol like this, they can go into a competitive arena and have their whole game changed. Not to mention, in professional sports, this could also be an occurrence too. We're not here trying to do that kind of stuff, especially not in esports today. In esports today, this is a serious threat. People can take a research chemical like acid or something like that and mix in your knowledge of acid, like tripping, into a permanent trip where you have augmented reality overlay installs of remote voyeurism data, like the enemy's fog of war in League of Legends, for example, is installed straight into your photons that you edit inside your brain. Now, this is a serious threat to competitive gaming if it were to be real. The thing is it's very easy to say, this is the infinity, and this is the finite. When you define the finite of what is allowed, it is very easy to say everything that is not within this whitelisted finite is illegal until presented and coded into the binary itself. Now, that in itself even poses threats as well, because if it's not done on lowest factorial block, like in my last video, it can open up backdoors, and then you just got hacked by somebody that wanted to game the system in some way of manipulating social engineering. You, the developer, he came up to you and was like, what about this little tiny thing that I want to do? You want to add this in? And you do. And then it adds in this giant infinity that you did not perceive or think of, because you did not define the lowest factorial blocks and all pre-computed futures that would edit the actual P value itself in all points at time. P value and S value up here, this is VS, virtual source, virtual packets. These are very important going into our future, because this will be the upper dimensional, outer dimensional assistance protocol. Then also in our future, we will see this right here all all of the science realm, this will be all factorial blocks, meaning it's pre-computable, meaning everybody that's outside of this does not see this happen. It can happen in a moment, in an instant. The entire game can go by because all factorial blocks are there. And then as soon as you snap your fingers, the game's over. A whole half an hour or more can go by in a snap. And then out comes the packet data of what happened, the true movie data of what really happened comes out from virtual source back into real source and has p-value exactly as p-value should be, read-only. Cannot be changed, cannot be edited, cannot be scalar, the binary cannot be edited. Read-only, because it is in RAID 1 format, multiple places at once. It was stored virtually and now it's stored locally in here where all of our minds are in here. This will cause redundancy, a good thing. Research cell phone redundancy if you have not. Cell phone redundancy and how cell phone packet transfers work is a very cool thing. And that's what I'm kind of piggybacking on, is encryption, VPN, and cell phone knowledge. All of this is very important with pre-computed time bubble. When this exit packet data comes out after the flash, the whole match, these conscious entities, imagine this, timeline is here. This is where the game is. This is where the game starts. The game ends and starts right here at the beginning. All the minds instantly get transferred up and over here, frozen. And the movie begins to play until the minds get re-engrossed and unfrozen and you go back into reality, hack free. This is another theory I've been working on to prevent even future stages of hacking. If this was to be a failure, this is the next phase. If hacking gets greater than the consent, then the next phase is pre-computed combat. If you want to do consensual combat, we will be doing pre-computed, segregated consensual combat outside of space and time and coming back in with remote control codes. And then we're into a whole new phase because everybody else will be here, right? And we'll come back down with remote control as well. We do not have to be necessarily frozen here because we are actually in this realm too. It is just the hackers themselves which we want to eliminate and move out. So your friends can still come in to play in your real life here where the game started and interact in your timeline. And that's all I'm gonna share with you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed and are ready for my next video. This is very serious times to me because personally, I have dealt with hacking against me. And one of the hacks against me was that somebody was able to gain ISP control, Internet Service Provider intermediary, and they had a encryption decryptor. They were able to catch my P, the packets that we're going to be sending out. They were able to understand what P equaled in League of Legends. And then when they knew that, they would filter it and they could call mine and send their own false packets that looked exactly the same. Now this was T now, or FT, false packet. And that was getting accepted by League of Legends source. And they were able to remote control my character because of the intermediary filtration on my packets. They could remote control me into the enemy team and feed me. This is what kind of danger we're going to be facing in the future is our minds, our bodies, our technology. So unless we get our shit together, we are going to face a potential remote control disaster in esports as we know it. And I really hope that we get our one languages to source down. Our consent needs to be vocalized outwards in pre-computed lowest factorial ways that I'm describing in these videos, or we will face dangers of photon hacking. All of your photons are two-dimensional photons. They're very simple. It might not seem like the universe is simple, but to an infinitely powerful supercomputer and a god-like entity that's controlling it, meaning somebody that's already hacked their mind out and researched all this stuff, somebody similar to my understanding but greater, could be doing this kind of stuff. And it already happened to me in League of Legends, being remote controlled into the enemy team and having just the weirdest lag packet spikes, just the weirdest things happening. It had nothing to do with lag. It was so, I wish we would get on to the source future phase where excuses run so deep in the hacking community. There's so many excuses made that when we're in pre-computed confirmation stage, they will never have an excuse again to hack. That's the problem, is there's all these different ways of like saying, oh, that's just lag, oh, that's just this, oh, that's just this, oh, that's just that. I know what happened. My teammates told me afterwards, I ran into the enemy team. When you disconnect and lag in League of Legends, you run to base. It's automatic protocol in the game. I felt it spiritually, I knew it to be true, that there was intermediary packet ISP ownage. Like they owned the ISP, like took control of it, hacked it, and started filtering from ISP at that level. When that level's encroached, that means they have League of Legends encryption understanding and decryption understanding, which should never happen. It should be encryption variables, right? Sending 10 or 100 different packets at the same time, or multiplying in between a different range. So then when it gets over here, it gets divided by that range. So then P equals P, and then can be sent back. Extremely low latency though. I'm talking extremely lightweight stuff. And that's for real world stuff right now. I'm not even talking about we're all inside source. Once we're all inside source and we're talking about this stuff, we can do infinite VPN, infinite ISP, infinite server, infinite encryption on every single packet. It'll go and it'll literally get altered infinite times every second. And there'll be nobody that can ever edit a packet of yours ever again from you to source. So that's my video for today. Thank you guys for watching. Hope this helps the community. Have a good one. Peace.